Welcome back to a episode of Hangin with Mr. Francis podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Francis, and it's been a long time since I've released an episode. This is episode 28, and this episode will be called For What It's Worth. But before we get into that, I would like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Bold and Wonderful Digital Art Prints. They are a digital art dealer, I would say. They create simple artistic work like quotes and sports stuff and things like that you can purchase for a reasonable price, and they run their store through Etsy. But if you want a direct link to them, that is boldandwonderful.ca, and they are Bold and Wonderful Digital Art Prints. They're pretty cool. We appreciate them giving us the opportunity and sponsoring us as our first official sponsor and our only sponsor, but hope to see that grow in the future. They've recently became a star seller on Etsy, and also they've reached 100 plus sales. So congrats to them on that. Round of applause. So with that being said, now on to the episode. So again, this is episode 28, and this episode is called For What It's Worth. Now, it's been a hot minute since I've recorded an episode, because I've recorded this episode probably 2-3 times, and I decided not to release it because there's a lot going on in the world right now. So much so that I had to take a step back because I have to observe everything. It's I don't even know what to say anymore, right? But mainly I took some time to enjoy life, spend time with family, and, watch my daughter grow, because she is now a toddler and she's growing at a rapid rate where I want to soak up all that time, because like I've said in previous episodes, time is something that we cannot get back. It's constantly moving forward, never backwards, and we just have to appreciate the journey of life and things for what it is. I am thankful and blessed that I am able to be in the position I am in my life, and I don't take it for granted, because a lot of people may not reach a certain point in their life that they're satisfied with or whatever, but I feel that a lot can get better in my life, no doubt. But at my point in my life, I'm more appreciative of just waking up every day, experiencing the little things, being able to see things for what it is. From time to time, things do get a little bit frustrating. However, that's part of life. It's something we can't avoid. Normally, I try not to rant too much for these episodes because I like to keep them short. But I didn't make any notes. I just wanted to go freestyle with this. And man, a lot of things have happened. I mean, the Queen died. We all know about that. People getting killed, dying left, right, center. And it's very crazy. Now, I'm not going to dive into the whole Queen situation. That's a whole entity of its own. I don't need to cover that. We all know how that bullshit is. Recently found out about a comedian that I stumbled upon when the whole lockdown situation happened. And the comedian I'm speaking of, you should check him out. David Arnold. I believe a Netflix special just came out about him, or not about him, but a Netflix comedy special. He's a comedian once again. He recently passed away. I don't know. They're saying it's natural causes, so who knows? This one hurts. I don't know the guy personally. Obviously, I don't. And people die and people pass away day in and day out, no doubt. But this one in particular hurts because I love his comedy. His comedy is like a family mentality type of comedy, and he's a father of 2 daughters, and me being a father of a daughter, a little girl, hearing the stories and stuff that he shared from when the lockdown first initially started till now, it's amazing. Like, you can relate to him, in what he says, being a parent and stuff like that. And I laugh because I'm like, yeah, I get what he's saying. I have now, give or take, yeah, his daughters are grown. I'm not sure how old they are, but I believe they're in their teenage years now. And when I found out he passed away, I couldn't believe it, because he was in his 50s, but it was like he was just getting started. And I went on his page the other day to see, like, because obviously, yeah, he passed away, but I went on it, and literally a month ago, he bought a car. And he said, I'm not one to always buy new cars. I've never owned a brand new car. And he literally said, this is something that I've always looked forward to doing. And he finally did it in the age of 50. Sometimes a lot of us take many years to get to that point. And I think he reached that point because he's moved his way up, right? He's a very, very funny guy with the comedy. Like, he speaks the truth, right? He doesn't sugarcoat it or whatever. And then, his wife was like, you deserved it, you're hardworking. And he's like, yeah, and he did it and he got it. And then to hear a month later, he didn't even get a chance to even enjoy reaching that pinnacle of his life, right? I think he was like 54. As I mentioned, he was in his 50s, but I believe I read he was 54. And it's like, if you looked at him, you would see that he doesn't even look 54. It probably looked like he's in his 40s or something like that. But the point I'm trying to make is, it reminded me about recently of me taking time to enjoy the little things in life, because you never know, you really never know when that time's gonna come. Something tragic can happen at any given moment in life. And as I get older, I start to realize that even more. I start to realize that life is short. Now, obviously, when we were kids growing up, as individuals, teenage, young adulthood, and so forth, we don't have the concept of time, right? We know there's such thing called time, but we don't have a full concept of what it truly is. And as I'm getting older and I have a kid of my own, I'm realizing, man, I can't believe she's already a year and a half, and in just a couple months she's going to be 2. And I can't believe 2 years have already creeped up. Like, we're almost there. And when things like this happen, with that guy passing away and other people passing away that we've seen over the last couple of years, from Kobe Bryant and his daughter and a bunch of other people, just, Virgil, Chadwick, suffering from what it is that they suffered in silence. Like, we don't take life serious enough. And I start to realize this with myself, going back a couple years, where I never really took the time. I know we all live busy lives, and the reason why I'm saying this in this episode, because I'm pouring out to anyone with an ear to listen, that life is short. Like, I've known many people with podcasts or videos, movies, whatever, has probably said this. But sometimes we have to humble ourselves to remind ourselves that, life is short. It's so short, and you blink and, it passes so quick, right? It passes so quick. And now you look at everything going on in the world, like there's so many things. There's so many things happening right now. And the sad part about it is, I'm not saying people don't care about what's going on in the world, but I feel like people don't care enough, right? And I'm starting to care more now, because having a child growing up, I have to be, aware of, like, where is everything going? Because I have a kid now that's gonna sooner or later, become older and living in the world, right? And I want to be there to guide them through what it is that we're going through. But the things that are happening in this world right now is unprecedented. Like, there's so many things happening. Like, I can't even list off the top of my head everything. But a few things are like this whole climate change situation, which is a topic for another day, because I have my theories on all that shit. But the point is, the reason for this, and as I said, the name of the episode is For What It's Worth. And for what it's worth, I'm just trying to give you, the listener, something to think about. Because honestly, everything that I've witnessed, I've taken the time since my last episode to observe many things. Mental health is at an all-time high right now, whether people like to admit it or not. A lot of people are suffering mentally. I heard about this girl that literally just took her life, and no one taking their life should be something that should happen, like, especially at a young age. You know, a lot of times we don't hear everything that we should hear about that happens where people take their lives because they're suffering in silence. You know, I try to check up on many people as I can, but I try to focus on the ones that I can check up on. I can't check up on everyone. And I think anyone and everyone who's listening to this, check up on your loved ones. Check up on the ones that are closest to you. You know, that's so much you can do. You can just check up on them, but you can't stop people from feeling the way they feel. And that's something that I've learned. Sometimes you have to allow the process to take its effect and have people come out of that. You know, last year in 2021, I went through a part in my life that I don't know why it happened the way it did, but I'm glad it happened. You know, I've had hiccups in my life before, but I never really expected to go through that. But it was an eye-opener. And a year later, I'm thankful that I'm still here and able to say the things that I'm saying and feel the way that I'm feeling and so forth. Right? But the point I'm trying to make is that everything is shifting. And I think there's a big thing that's coming in this world. I mean, 2 years have passed since this whole lockdown situation happened. No one ever expected that whole thing to even happen, period. No one expected that. And we went through it. And the thing that I've realized is that the world was always sick before that whole lockdown situation happened. It's just when it happened, a lot of things became more maximized because the world's never been through something like that. Like, obviously the older generation is slowly dying off, and you know, I was born in the 80s, and then you have these names that are given, like the millennials and stuff like that. Sadly, a lot of these kids that were born in the early 2000s or whatever, and now they're teenagers or whatever, they're lost. They're really lost, whether we like it or not. And this is why I'm going to double back to what I said with mental health is at an all-time high, because, you know, social media is something that I stress multiple times, I guess, in this podcast. I think I may have said it a few times. I believe I have. Is that social media has corrupted the minds of the youth. Like, I love technology. I grew up at the turning point of when technology started to take off, from the MSNs to the early days of Facebook and Instagram to where it is now. It's too much. And for growing minds to see these things, you know, now we have like TikTok and all that BS and stuff like that. It's just very hard to see where we could be 5-10 years from now, right? We don't know where the world's gonna be in the next short bit. Let's really be honest about that. We truly do not know. But from what I can see is that we're not going down a great path. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that I would say us as society can try to do to help minimize the destructive path that we're on with society. But the only thing that we can do truly is to enjoy the journey with our family. Try to do our part as individuals the best possible way we can. A lot of times it's these big corporations that cause these issues, but they never get it, they never get punished for their BS. It's always the little people that always ends up getting the shit end of the stick, right? But to go back to what I'm saying is that with this whole mental health thing, like, common sense isn't even common anymore. People are just doing stupid shit over and over again. People are getting killed over the small pettiest things. People are not doing the right things that you would have expect regular normal folks to do. Everyone's become so jealous of one another, envious of one another, and people have just become lovers of self, so much so that they put all these flashy things online. Now, give or take, if you have it, you have it. You know what I mean? If you got it and you want to show it, be my guest. Show it. That's entirely you, right? It's entirely you. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to show, that's entirely you, right? But the repercussions of that, we're starting to see the cracks within that. A friend of mine said that, the world was already messed up before all this stuff, the stuff that we have now, this all technology and stuff like that. And he was right. I couldn't agree with him more. The world has always been this way. It's just now it's like there's a magnifying glass. But I've always said, as much as this always has been a problem amongst society, where the way people think, the way people are, the evil and things of that nature, with the things that are happening right now, it has created such a ripple effect of everything becoming a lot worse than it already was. You almost got to take a step back and ask yourself, can it get any worse? And unfortunately, it will get worse. It will get a lot worse before it gets better. But sometimes I wonder, will it ever get better? Because growing up, I always thought that, things will get better with time. But as long as there's corporate greed and people that want to make profit, as long as society's set up the way it is, and that's another topic for another day as well, is like, the way the world is set up, the way society is set up, the way the structure is set up, is that it's a dog eat dog world. Like, you gotta jump over other people. You gotta fake it before you make it, or fake it till you make it, or anything. There's no genuine mentality as much anymore. Like, there's still genuine people out there, right? But a lot more times, but because the way things are set up, people are more willing to be fake and be not true to themselves to get ahead, instead of being true to yourself to make it to a certain point in life. Resources are dwindling, right? Things are getting more expensive. The inflation, the cost of living, everything, the cost of real estate, everything's becoming so harder to attain that people are willing to do almost anything to attain those things. And unfortunately, with that happening, it causes a huge issue among society where people start to get cold-hearted. They'll climb over you just to get where they gotta get to. Even family members will be jealous of you and envious of you because they don't want to see you do better than them. I never understood that quote, and I probably said it before, and I sound like a broken record saying it, but it's true till this very moment of me saying this. People want to see you do good, but never better than them. And I had to learn this as time goes on with my life. I've seen this with friends. I've seen this with family. Like, I always grew up in a somewhat of a tightly knit family environment. right? But because I was young and innocent, my mind never thought of looking at people with an observant eye. Like I've never studied to say like, oh, I see how this person is. That was not my intentions. But seeing that my life has changed, I've become more of a family man and understand things a little bit more, I start to realize that the friends and family that you think would be there are no longer going to be there, because sometimes, yeah, we do all grow into different directions in life. No doubt, we grow into different directions in life. But you start to see that not all the time is that you're growing into a different direction. It's just people are not respectful enough because they don't like to see you win. So I'm going to try to close this off by saying, keep the people around you that want to see you win, right? Be mindful of the individuals you surround yourself with. There's that saying that says, show me 5 people that you hang around with and I'll tell you where your life is going to be in the next 5-10 years. And that's a very true statement, because I remember at a point in my life I used to hang around with, excuse my language, dumb motherfuckers, and my life never progressed anywhere. And then I started to change not only the people that I hung around with, but my environment, and I started to see my life shift. And it's true to that nature, is that people will drain your energy because you can't speak the goals and true intentions that you want to attain with small-minded people. And it's not always their fault. It's just that's just how they are, and you can't change that about them. So what you need to change is the time and energy you give to them and where you want to shift yourself. I started doing a vision board recently with this little board I have up. I just write down goals and stuff like that. I used to write in the books or whatever, but now I started doing a vision board so I can put up and I look at it and see it and create new goals and update them and so forth. And that's one of the greatest things you could ever do. I wish I did it sooner. So whoever is hearing this, try that. Try doing a vision board. Write out your goals. Put up pictures of what you want to attain. But you have to remember, you're not trying to attain these things to show off on anybody or puff out your chest or to feed your ego. You're doing these things because these are goals you want to attain for yourself and not for anyone else. Unless you're trying to attain certain things for your family. Like me, there's certain things I'm not going to say there that I want to attain for my family. There's certain things that I want to attain for myself. And in order for me to get to that point, I certainly need to create a vision of where I want to go and stick to it. And a lot of times it depends too on the company you keep and the environment you're in. If you're not working to move yourself out of a certain environment that's been holding you back, or keeping the people or having the people around you that are holding you back, you're never going to reach anywhere in life. And as I mentioned, doubling back down to the beginning where I said time is short. I remember working at a job where it was around elderly people, and I may or may not have shared this before, but I'm sure when you sit and speak to a lot of elderly people who are at a point in their life where they've lived life not necessarily fully, but they've lived it gracefully, so they reach that point, 9 times out of 10 they're going to tell you, don't waste time. Do what you love to do and love what you do. Because that thing is going to be gone in the blink of an eye. And unfortunately, when we're born into a world that has already been here before us, and it's going to be here after we're gone. So it makes sense to enjoy it while you're here, even though a lot of things are pretty crazy at times. But I always say it's not about the things that you attain in life. like these material things, the vanity and so forth. It's about the journey. And that's what I've learned to accept and I've learned to appreciate. And that's the journey of life. Because without the journey and the small things, you cannot appreciate life for what it truly is. Life is short. It really is. And a lot of times I'll sit back and think to myself, man, I wish I did this better a couple years ago. But those things are just things for you to look back at, not to dwell on it, but to look back at and said, all right, these times have already passed. I think it's time for me to level up to a different level. And right now for me, I've leveled up to a different level in my life. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to be able to be on that ride with me where I'm about to go. Give or take, I'm like an open book sometimes, but not all the time, because I just stay to myself. And that's just me. A lot of people are like that. A lot of people are open books. A lot of people are not. Me, I'm in between. But as I get older, I start to realize and appreciate things for what they are more now. Do things upset me? Of course, I'm human. And that's what we fail to forget sometimes. We're only human, living in this experience. But the one thing I know for sure that I've learned to appreciate is not material things, but the time of the little things that I never used to appreciate when I was a younger adult. So I hope anyone and everyone who hears this, I hope this is something to encourage you to understand that you may have heard this multiple times from different sources, and I hate hitting the nail on the head with this all the time, but appreciate life for what it is, enjoy the little things, and don't let it slip away. I still struggle with this till this very moment, but I'm more aware than I once was, because that's something that is a big factor in life, is being aware, being in the moment, understanding and seeing things for what it is. So I appreciate you for joining me for this episode. For what it's worth, episode 28. For what it's worth, I hope this hits you in the heart to show you that you gotta live life pure as best as you can and appreciate the small things. I don't know when I'm going to be releasing any more episodes. I'm going to try to be more consistent, but in the meantime, I'm just enjoying life. There's a few topics that I want to cover more deep, but this one I had to speak my mind on because there's a lot of shifts coming in this world right now, and we all got to be prepared for it. So thank you for joining me for Hanging with Mr. Francis podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Francis. Love one another, cherish one another, and enjoy the journey of life, because time is short.